to welcome you all to the League of Women Voters Hastings, what is it today, November 14th meeting. Today we've got Raul Arcos Hawkins here with us again, the Executive Director of the Grand Island Multicultural Coalition, to speak to us. Let's take care of the housekeeping. The League of Women Voters of Hastings is a nonpartisan grassroots civic organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not endorse individual political candidates or political parties, and membership in the League is open to people 16 years and older of all gender identities. Raul, if you want to come up, thank you very much for your gracious giving of your time, which is precious, I believe. And Raul's got a great guest he'll introduce.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Was it working at all when I was?
No. I think you gotta turn something on over there.
In the other room.
I think this is. So good afternoon, everyone. This time the presentation is not as long, but I did bring Lupita Yala Montañez, who is our accredited Department of Justice representative. That's all immigration work. So she'll be going through a lot of the policy updates. If you have any questions, just like last time, you can raise your hand. It keeps dying.
Were there any batteries up here? I'll go get some.
Well, I'm going to go very quickly through that information that you guys saw earlier. I just got to remind everyone that I can move forward on the presentation, but if you need anything, I can't move back. Camera does not allow me to. Well, I'll just keep going. I speak really loud. So thank you for inviting us again, for having us here. Again, we're going to talk about today some policy updates that impacts and challenges. So I'll go over them. Key objectives to keep our community informed and to update on the policies that affect us all. Again, our mission is to empower individuals, embrace cultures, and strengthen community. Our vision is to build a community that values diversity as the strongest asset. We have two locations. Our main office is located at 325 West 4th, and then we do have the Learning Center that is on 387 North Walnut. So essentially, we've taken over that whole corner on 4th and Walnut. We have 4 areas of impact: the workforce economic development, community development investment, and then that community outreach, which is what we're doing today. When we look at community, workforce, and economic development, Lupita does a lot of that work when we look at assistance with work authorization. So anybody that can benefit from a work permit, Lupita will help them, and then can also help them renew it. We also have the workforce development support, where we do offer a workforce development workshop to individuals who maybe don't know how to do an application. Right now, currently, 98% of the applications for any job are online. So if you don't know how to use a computer or don't know how to upload your resume, you're in trouble. So we're trying to get people to learn and adapt to how do you apply for jobs online. And then the other one is foster that economic development. We are part of the 4th Street Business Improvement District. I'm actually the current president of it. So we're trying to foster that relationship with the businesses to boost that economic development. On that community development, Lupita again helps anybody who is looking to apply for the residence or the green card and that citizenship. We do have the help center underneath, so anybody who has any basic needs can come in, get any assistance that they need. And then again, the Learning Center. Currently, we're developing a lot of the programming that we're doing. We have something called Cafecito with MC, or Coffee with MC. And we partnered up with Central Health District, and it's basically a senior group that anybody can come in who is a senior and come in and learn. And then last Wednesday, they actually had like a game night, and they played Mexican lottery, and they had a blast. And then a month ago, they actually had karaoke night, and they had one of their biggest turnouts. And let me tell you, you guys are partiers. I want to reach that age and be in party too and sing my heart out, because them ladies over there that day, my God. And then we have that community development, and again, that's just pushing to make sure that as an organization, we're helping develop our community by providing programming and any conversations that we need. The last one is, again, presentations, workshops, and doing this type of presentations to ensure we inform the community of what's going on. Our staff just grew a little bit smaller. We lost our front services coordinators, so we're actually applying. We're looking for somebody to fill that position. So if you know anybody who lives in Grand Island and is bilingual, we would love to welcome them into our office and see if they would like to apply for the job. And again, all of our offices, all of our personnel are bilingual. There's one individual that's multilingual, and Lupita's trying to learn other languages. I'm stuck in English and Spanish, and then whatever I learned from my grandma in Italian. We do have Barb Sorensen, who is our citizenship instructor, and she's also bilingual, English and French. Okay, just a recap, we just ended our fiscal year for 2025, so I don't remember if I showed you these numbers, but number of individuals that were impacted by our services were 7,337, unduplicated clients was 2,704, cases completed was 663, and then families that were impacted were 660. It was a busy year for us. There was 26 countries of origin. The ones that are highlighted, Cuba, Guatemala, Mexico, Sudan, and United States, were the top 5 countries that needed the most assistance. As you can see, when you look at all the countries, United States, our doors are open to anybody who needs any assistance, not just people from other countries. It is also U.S. citizens. So if you know anybody in Grand Island that's any assistance, you can send them our way, and if we can't help them, we'll send them out and make the referral. Okay, now the most important part. I got through the other part quickly because she has to leave shortly. Please do not accept this as legal advice. Like last time, it's just an informational, so that way you guys can get an understanding of what's going on. Even if you feel confident about providing or sharing this information, just remind that it's not legal advice and it's not to be considered. Another one is that people are undocumented. The act of crossing the border is illegal, but that doesn't make that person illegal. So we always remind folks that a person is undocumented. The act that was committed was illegal, but it doesn't make that person illegal. And then, number 1, before we get started in the policy, is understand the reality. You don't have to know every policy. In order to help somebody, if you know somebody who needs assistance, you don't have to know every policy. As long as because we'll be honest, immigration policy, there are days that Lupita and I come in and we're like, oh, something else changed overnight. So it keeps going back and forth, and we even have a hard time understanding what those policies are. So just understand that it's ever changing. Right now we're still, I think now we're in litigation over the 128 questions to see if that's even going to go through. So recognize that some immigrants live in chronic fear. And I can tell you that even though I've been in this country since 8 years old, and I'm a DACA recipient, and I'm trying to do everything the right way, I still live in chronic fear whenever I see a police officer thinking that they're going to pull me over. And then trust is key. It is the most important piece of advice that we could provide to anybody, that if you're trying to build those relationships with the immigrant community, is building trust. Okay.
One more thing, and one of the reasons why I'm always afraid of like a police officer is not because he's like doing illegal stuff. It's because every time he applies for his DACA, immigration looks through his criminal record. And if he has 2 significant misdemeanors, he could get his work permit revoked. Even if he's a good citizen, he just had some speeding citations that it's at the discretion of the officer. So if the officer says, ooh, Raul likes to speed, he's a danger to society, he could take his DACA away, which could end up in MC losing the executive director, having to, rehire and all of that, and then he would have to go back to Mexico. Okay, who can practice immigration law? One is an attorney, and the second one is a Department of Justice accredited representative. That's a long title. And I hate saying it, so like, oh my God, I said it. So to be a DOJ, you have to, one, work either at a church or a nonprofit to practice immigration law. You have to go through training and shadowing, do a criminal background check, and submit your application to the Department of Justice. They will review it, and if they think you're qualified, then you get approved. You have to go through training every year and renew your accreditation every 2 years. I'm actually going through the renewal, my second renewal this time, because it would expire next year. Who cannot practice immigration law? Notary or a notario. Within the Hispanic community, there's a lot of notaries that are practicing immigration law. And in our countries, a notary is a step higher than an attorney, right? In our countries, they go to school, they are qualified to practice law. But in the United States, that's a whole different, right? A notary signifies something different. So people within our community, they assume that notarios are eligible to practice immigration law. So they go and they pay thousands of dollars, and the person doesn't have any training on that. A case manager also doesn't have the immigration skills to fill out applications, to give legal advice, and also a friend or a relative. People come to my office many times with like questions, and they say, well, my uncle got their green card this way, why can't I? Because every case is different. On their surface it might look the same, but once you start asking certain questions, it turns out that your case is completely different, or you might not qualify for the same benefit as your uncle. Okay, so these are some of the recent policies. The expedited removal. Back then, before the current administration, if you were apprehended within 100 miles of the border and you had been in the country for 14 days or less, you would be deported without court, without having a chance to fight for your case. Now that has changed. Instead of 14 days, it's 2 years, and instead of 100 miles within the border, it's all over the United States. So if you get apprehended and you've been less than 2 years in the country, you would get deported without the opportunity of fighting for your case. So it's important for immigrants to keep records, that tax returns, because they do pay taxes, or school records that they've been in the country for more than 2 years. So if they get detained, at least they get let go on a bond, and they get to fight for their case within the United States. The other one is remain in Mexico policy. Usually how a asylum seeker, how the law is written is they should come into the United States and seek asylum, right? Fight for their case within the United States. That's how it's stated. But now that has changed. People who are coming into the country looking for asylum, they're sent back to Mexico, and they're asked to fight for their case in Mexico, which is dangerous because immigrants stand out, especially in Mexico. They either from Central South America, people from Mexico can tell that they're not from there, right? Especially cartels. So that makes them victims of extortion, kidnapping. I have many clients who, I'm from Mexico, and I talk to them, and they say, I love your country, but I got kidnapped by the cartels, right? And it's something that is happening because they are a vulnerable population. Also, they have to hire an immigration attorney. Immigration attorneys charge in dollars. If you're working in Mexico, you're getting pesos. So it's not matching, unfortunately. And then we also have the elimination of CBP-1. That was a program by the Biden administration that allowed Cuban, Nicaraguan, Haitian, and Honduran to come into the country legally. They had a 2-year parole, which allowed them to obtain a work permit. Within those 2 years, they had to either get a green card through a family member or through an asylum, but now that has ended, which means that I believe 50,000?
Well, no, it's more than, I put the number.
Okay, 800,000 individuals lost their status. Before, I was talking to one person from staffing agency in Grand Island. She was saying that right now there's a lot of jobs open because all those people got let go. And unfortunately, they either have to, they're being asked to go back home. And the app that they used to apply for their legal parole, now it's called Welcome Home, which is telling them to self-deport. And then the other program that ended is obviously the humanitarian parole, TPS. TPS is protected status for individuals from countries where there's either a natural disaster or there's a war going on. That is not a pathway to lawful permanency or lawful green card, but it's a way for them to stay in the country legally, work, and protect them from deportation. But that has ended for some countries. The other one is the special immigrant juvenile status. That's for kids who either suffered neglect or abuse from one or both parents, and they came to the country by themselves or with one parent. That allows them to get a green card after 5 years if they obviously obey the law, they're going to school, learn English. That has ended, which has left a lot of kids in vulnerable situations because obviously they're running away from who was supposed to take care of them, and now they are here with like people that might be taking advantage of them. Also, there's rumors that people are like, well, because with that program, they would come to the country, get papers, and then get papers for their parents. That's not true. If you get your green card through immigrant juvenile status, you cannot petition for your parents, never. So that's a myth. Your parents cannot get a green card through you if you got your green card through SIJ. So what's the impact? A lot of people have lost their status, their safety in the country. They're being asked to go back. And obviously that has been also impactful for our economy in Nebraska, right? There's a lot of employers that are losing their employees. They're calling me because I help them with their initial work permit, and they're asking, hey, Lupita, what can you do? Because I need this person was a good employee. How can I help them so they can get a green card? And unfortunately, I cannot do anything, right? Because their parole ended, I cannot apply for a new work permit. And then for those that qualify for a green card, like Cubans, the process intent is long. We're waiting for work permits, and it's been already, I would say, 11 months that we're waiting for the work permits. Unfortunately, those people can't work because then they will be, breaking the law if they're working unlawfully. So, yeah, right now it's tough with our community. Yeah. Oh, thank you. There's also new fear tactics for people who want to become citizens. There is the neighborhood checks. So, at discretion of the officer, if you're applying for citizenship, immigration might go to your neighborhood and talk to your neighbors and ask if you're a good person. It all depends, right? Like, thankfully, I have a good relationship with my neighbors, but what if my neighbors were, they didn't like me because, X, Y reason, even though I'm a good person. If immigration goes and talks to them and they say, oh yeah, like, she's not good, they could even lie, right? You never know how people are. So they could even go to your job and ask, hey, is Raul a good person? He wants to become a citizen, which I honestly, I don't like that, because I don't like people knowing my business, right? And then there's also racial profiling. The Supreme Court allowed ICE to arrest people if they look foreign, right? So I'm a U.S. citizen. I could just be driving or walking. I could be arrested just because of the way I look, right? I look Mexican. I'm Mexican, right? I could say, hey, I am, or even if I'm speaking Spanish, my parents speak English as well, but we speak Spanish with each other because that's our mother language, right? I don't like that, because why do I have to be afraid that I might get detained if I'm speaking Spanish to my parents? Or if I'm helping somebody else in the store, just because, they say that I might be undocumented just because I don't speak English. So yeah, that's some of the recent fear tactics.
Who qualifies for denaturalization?
Denaturalization, yeah. So that right now it's really broad, and they're trying to scare people to say, hey, we're going to take your citizenship away if you're, using your voice and trying to, if you're not agreeing with the government. But who can be denaturalized is if you got your green card your citizenship through mistake. Let's say there's this recent case where an individual from Great Britain, I believe, he had a child molestation case in his home country, and he became a citizen. Immigration did not detect that case before, and when he became a citizen, he omitted that information. Now, they caught that case and they said, well, you were not even eligible in the first place. So that's one. And the other one is if you commit a terrorist attack. If you're against the government, if you're doing things that are in danger for the safety of the United States.
Any other questions on policy before she has to leave?
I know it's a lot.
It's a lot, like,
Yeah.
that's why when we talk about, all these policy updates, it is a lot of information, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of you are like, well, can you go back and talk about this other case or about this other issue? There is a lot of information, and unfortunately, we're seeing that it's ever changing. There's never, like even with the 100 questions for citizenship, another 128, and they've actually rephrased a lot of them so that it makes you doubt that the answer you gave is the correct one. So it's making it harder for individuals to take the citizenship test. There's still individuals that are trying, their hardest, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty resilient. So I'm pretty sure even, that 128 questions is not going to stop somebody from wanting to become a U.S. citizen. Any questions on the policy or any doubt that you might have before she has to go?
There's also an update for DACA. Oh, and the work permits actually. They keep changing every day. I get emails, and then it's like, well, we changed this, and then I get a new email. Never mind, we go back to normal. But the current one is for DACA. They might end DACA in Texas, so the program would not end, but the people who have DACA status will lose their ability to work if they live in Texas. In other states, including Nebraska, they will still have their work permit and protection from deportation, but in Texas, they will only have the protection from being deported, but they won't have the work authorization. And then the other is work permits for some categories. They get an extension of 180 days. So if I'm renewing my work permit within time, if it expires and they have not issued my new work permit, I get that extension. I can keep working. They have ended that. That has ended. And it's not like they're working faster on the work permits. They're taking even longer now, which means people, even if they apply within the right time, they might lose their status until their new work permit gets approved again.
Is the work permit the same as a green card?
No. So the work permit only allows you to work legally in the United States. It gives you a social security. You cannot travel outside of the country. There's some work permits that allow you to travel, but you have to apply. For example, for DACA, there's something called advance bureau. And that you must apply, pay like $500, $600, and it's not like you just want to go on vacation. It's either you have a humanitarian reason, education, or for work. And it could be approved or denied. Oh, also a medical reason. And you must provide the reason why you're going, how long are you going, and they're going to give you the specific time that you can go. For example, my husband did that. He was a DACA recipient, and he had to go see his grandma. She was really sick. They only gave them a month to go, and we got the approval on March, and the dates that he was allowed to travel were from June to August. So I believe it was like just a month. Yeah, because we were there for just a little bit, and I had to talk to my boss and say, hey, we just got this approved, can you give us a day off? And can you give me the day off? Because those days off because I have to go with him, because he had never been to Mexico. And then for people with TPS, some of them also apply for advance bureau. But going back to your question, sorry, the work permit is only authorization to work, and the green card allows you to become a citizen after 5 years, or 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen.
So while you're waiting for your work permit to come through, and you have to wait a long time for that to come through, how do they support themselves?
Okay, some of them sell food from their home, but other than that, they have their savings. Most of them, they come to me, there's some work permits that they're approved for 1 year, and they're taking 11 months to process. So they come to me sometimes six months ahead or months ahead, and they're saving. They're working and they're saving, just so they can keep that work permit valid.
So they're just not allowed to work for someone, is that what it is? Or-
Yes.
Okay,
So-
it's self-employed.
And-
Like with self-employed.
That's not like a gray area.
Yeah, that's a great area. So if you look at the just like Facebook Marketplace, you'll see a lot of Latino people selling cakes. That's part of the reason.
Or tamales.
Or tamales or whatever. You'll start. I've started noticing that because they probably lost their work permit or they're waiting for their work permit. It's taking a long time. Like for example, in my situation, as a DACA recipient, my work permit expires in December of next year. So that means I've been fortunate enough that I've already saved the money to pay to submit my application, but I'm submitted in July, so now we have 6 months to wait for my work permit. And unfortunately, if my work permit expires, as a DACA recipient, I do not qualify for unemployment, even though I'm paying in. So then, if I'm lucky that I'm able to save, so I have sufficient months of savings that I could pay my mortgage, I could pay my car payment, and all in the basic needs. But if you think about it, and I'm going to talk about, if you want to go.
No, it's okay. I still have a little.
Okay, so here are some of those impacts of some of these information that we discuss on these policies. Family and human impact. We have family separation. The countless of families that have come to our office that have to file that or sign the delegation of parental rights. And it was inside that orange folder that I brought last time. Kids that are 18, 19 years old that now have to be the head of household. And not only be head of household, but also take care of their siblings. And when we sign these family delegation delegation of parental rights, it's not about just signing a document. I always sit with them and we take 2 hours to go through all that because I ask the parents, are your kids, does your child that is taking on this responsibility understand that that part-time job at a pizza place or at the mall is not going to be sufficient when you eliminate 2 household incomes? And are they going to be in a mental position that if one of their siblings has, some medical emergency, are they going to be able to say yes or no in the care that they need? So when we look at the human impact, it is a huge challenge that we're seeing. That increased fear, anxiety, and mental health issues. I am taking counseling, not only for the work that I'm doing, because it is a lot, but I'm also taking counseling for my own sanity. When we see that fear and anxiety, if you recall a couple months ago when there was the raid in Omaha, a week later there was a suspected raid on 4th Street at one of the businesses. 4th Street became paralyzed because of what happened, because of the fear that's spreading. Right now, one of the big things that we're noticing, because we're not seeing those raids that were promised or that we were told that those were going to happen, people are becoming complacent. And we've had a hard time doing Know Your Rights presentation, and people showing up because they're like, well, we're not seeing those big raids. I'm like, yeah, because right now, you're more, as an immigrant, you're safer in a conservative state than a more liberal state. If you think about what's happening in California to what's happening in Nebraska, we're not seeing those raids as they're happening in California as they're happening here. Here we are seeing more individual detentions where they're going after certain individuals who may have a deportation proceeding, or they did a checking with immigration because they have to, and then they're like, well, your case was stopped or was one of the policies has ended, so now we're going to arrest you. We're also seeing that loss of trust in schools, healthcare, and law enforcement. The last one is a big one because we are seeing an increase of law enforcement as sheriffs that are entering into 287Gs, which is a contract between immigration and the sheriff. Currently, NSP can pull somebody over and ask that individual for documentation to prove to see if they're legally in the country. So we're seeing some of that. I know Rhode Island Public Schools is working really hard to continue that trust between the parents and the school system. I know MC has worked really hard to ensure that we're still continuing to build that trust, to ensure that we're providing our students and their families the most reliable resources that we have, and that if they need any assistance, they know where to go. Yes, and the crime rate. So this is going to be something different or interesting that I know I've asked GIP, because in the last police report that came out said that crime dropped by 14%. So that's where I would question: is it because crime is not being reported? Because people are fearful that if they have to report a crime, that means they'll have to have contact with a police officer, and if that police officer, if they have contact with them, are they going to report that to immigration? So that's something that we are concerned to, because when we look at the index of domestic violence, especially around the holidays, it tends to increase. And to see that, the crime dropped by 14% seems a little high. So that's a bit concerning. I don't know Adams County or Hastings. I think it'd be interesting to find out and then figure out why is that happening. The other one is that economic impact, as Lupita had mentioned. The workforce shortages are in key industries. If you all remember during COVID, in Grand Island, we couldn't keep our Burger King staff. They ended up closing Burger King on Webb Road and the other one on South Locust, and they combined all their employees into the one Burger King on 2nd Street. We can't even keep the Burger King's staff, let alone the industries that we need right now. Like Lupita said, we were talking to one of the staffing agencies, and they said they have hundreds and hundreds of jobs that are not being filled.
That TPS status for the Cubans had to really hurt Grand Island.
Yes, so I'll give you some numbers. From our understanding, JBS let go over 400 individuals. The staffing agencies let go about 200. The casino was 150. And I don't know, and Walmart let go of, I believe, like 30 of them. So then when you think about all these individuals that are losing their jobs, it is a lot. It's going to impact our economy because you're losing dollars of individuals that are obtaining a wage. So then you think about them purchasing stuff, and now, because they don't have an income, the loss in sales tax that we're not obtaining. So that economic impact is going to be felt, and I know currently there is discussions in the state of Nebraska of how that's going to impact our agriculture. There was a report that 55% of the employees in agriculture, in the agriculture industry, are immigrants. The other one is, again, that loss of income and the spending power, reduced household income, economic stability, strain on local businesses and the economic growth. We're, as part of the Forestry BID, we're going to do a survey to see what the impact of the immigration policies has done to their business. Have they seen a decrease? I know from talking to one of the businesses, they have seen a 20% drop in their business since some of these policies have either ended or the immigration policies have been a bit harsher. Because why? I would love to go on a vacation, but my concern is if my work permit is not renewed, or it takes too long next year, that I'm going to need, that $1,000 I would have spent on a vacation to pay my mortgage, or to buy food, or to go to MC and say, hey, your own director now needs assistance because I don't have a work permit. Oh, I think I did when I was here the first time, but if you recall, so when I first originally got hired at MC, my work permit, I had already renewed it, and we were waiting for the renewal. 1 month into working at MC, my work permit still hadn't arrived. I had to create 2 different agendas for that meeting. Agenda A meant that everything was peachy and that I had gotten my work permit and I was going to continue working. Agenda B meant that I had to submit my resignation and basically quit my job and hope and pray that the board would have liked me enough in a month to say, we want to rehire you. It came in the same day that it expired. She had to look it up because I kept telling her, I can't come in. It was bogging down. I had just bought a house too. So then I just kept thinking, I'm like, okay, how many months do I have saved to pay for my mortgage so I don't lose the house I just bought? So it is stressful when we look at just these 2, but then we also have to look at the community and social impact, erosion of community trust and participation. Even when we look at, we had the 4th Street Festival, I think this year we saw less people. And it could have been because it expanded into more streets, but we saw less foot traffic. You see a rise in discrimination, labor exploitation, and racial profiling. One of the things that is being reported is that individuals that are working maybe under the table are now being paid less than minimum wage because they're being exploited because they know that they're undocumented. The other part of that racial profiling, unfortunately, with the Supreme Court decision that allows ICE agents to basically pull anybody over who they believe is undocumented, just because they look undocumented, which I don't know what that means, or they speak Spanish, is apparently another big clue that the individual could be undocumented. We're going to see a lot of this racial profiling. I know that I had about a month ago, I had a conversation with high school students. And I related it to them and I said, many of you are probably still waiting for a process to be either concluded or you're going to get a work permit or you're in limbo. And unfortunately, now that the Supreme Court decided that they give it ICE this blanket terminology of who is undocumented and who is not, those students now run the risk. And some of them are rolling their eyes, as teenagers do, because the authority figures telling them, hey, you're going to get in trouble. I told them, I'm like, unfortunately, some of you, because of how thick your accent is, will give yourself away. So that's the other part, is when we're looking at that racial profiling, is how is that going to impact our community? And this one is important because this last one, for overwhelmed local nonprofits and support group. At MC, we're already overwhelmed. Because of all the restrictions on funding, we've lost funding. Currently, we've lost about $1.3 million in funding. One of them was through Department of Labor, that we were going to help individuals find jobs and prepare and fill the labor force. We all want that. That funding is gone. We were going to get $1 million over the next 5 years to enhance their immigration legal services. That's gone. So we are feeling overwhelmed. There's times where, I'm wondering where we're going to get funding. By nature of what the agency does, because they see us as an agency who supports immigrants, does immigration work, donations are really low. Like, it's something that, we always have to deal with, but we're trying to see, how do we diversify our funding? The other part, and that overwhelmed by nonprofits, and I don't know about Hastings, but I know in Grenada, with the loss of employment, we are seeing an index of obviously the rise in unemployment, but some of the other agencies that provide food boxes or food are seeing an increase in people seeking food resources. In the month of August, just one of our community partners, the Mission, they have 800 food boxes that went out in 1 month. And they give them out on a weekly basis. Our other community partner, Hope Harbor, spent all their funding for food in the first quarter. So it is putting a strain on local nonprofits, and obviously, you know, I'm not going to preach to the choir when we know that food prices is up, and we're strained for our dollars, that we're looking to see how much we can stretch a dollar, but that's part of the reason too, where we're seeing that those nonprofits. Educational, we have that interrupted education for children in mixed family statuses. Sure, reducing school attendance and engagement. And that's one that I know slowly has been less and less, but when the first raid happened in Omaha, it was the first visual raid that we had in the state. Attendance at Grand Island Public Schools dropped. The day after it happened, they had so many kids that didn't show up to school. And then just barriers for higher education for DACA. For DACA specifically, some states now are going back to the policy. So when before I originally got DACA, I wanted to be a school teacher. But we had one of our governors, Dave Heidemann, at the time, said that had an executive order through the state where undocumented students could not pay or could not attend college as residents of the state. So then all my scholarships that I had gotten, I had to pay the difference between resident tuition and non-resident tuition, even though I've lived in the state of Nebraska since 1993. So I ended up having to drop out because I didn't have the money. So that's what's going to end up happening to some of these states that are changing their policy back because they don't believe that DACA recipients should get the resident status of the state in order to continue going to college and get a higher education because they don't believe that DACA recipients should get that same benefit. So then when we think about what the impact is going to happen, we already have a shortage of teachers. A lot of DACA recipients are in the medical field, they're in education, and they have their own business, or they work in nonprofits. If we think about the impact that that's going to cause, and while we're seeing a shortage of educators, it's going to get tougher. And as Peter said, in the state of Texas, they don't recognize DACA, the work permit, as a valid form of way to be employed. So anybody living there currently right now, they're probably going to see, it would be interesting to see how many DACA recipients and their families have exited out of the state of Texas because of that. We're also seeing that same thing with TPS. The legal impact, again, limited access to immigration legal services, and we are seeing that here. Just in the Tri-City area, MC right now is currently the only one with boots on the ground. We do have Immigrant Legal Center, but they have a case manager. St. Mary's immigration program only has an individual coming from Lexington once or twice a month, but they focus on U visas and T visas. Lutheran Family Services no longer has somebody that offers immigration legal services in Grand Island. So when we look at the strain of what it's taking, and that's part of the reason why we are, a little bit overwhelmed. And we have a long list, a wait list to get to cases because of the lack of services. We also have that growth of the fraudulent notarial practices. We just took down, and I've become public enemy #1 for these notaries. There was an alleged attorney right across the street from us that some guy was doing all the work, but we believe that he actually had a fake certificate for an attorney that he was working for from Puerto Rico. Yeah, so that law office is now no longer open.
Yeah.
So we're fighting these notarios, so we're gonna continue that fight. As Lupita said, we have longer processing times, and legal limited access, and then confusing and constantly changing immigration rules. The other thing that's with that is, with that part of the policy that we didn't mention, is now the only way to pay for an immigration case is you have to have a credit card or a debit card. Or a bank account. You have to do ACH transfer. You cannot send a check or a money order anymore. So think about when they're processing your case, if it's taking months and they don't take the money out right away and you have an emergency, if at the time that they take the money out, it's not there, they're gonna deny your case and you're gonna have to reapply all over again. The broader social impact is reduced public health engagement. We're seeing that where individuals are not going for access to medical care because of that same position that they think that if they have, you know, a contact with a professional, that might trigger an immigration response. Undermines values of inclusion and justice. That's why this year our T-shirt says, "With liberty and justice for all," because it is. We truly believe in our Constitution. Fear of accessing health or public programs. One of the things that has happened is in our office, we've seen a sharp decline of individuals who maybe qualified for some benefits. They're basically, those applications are non-existent. The only people that we're helping are seniors who are coming in because that's who's all coming in currently in our office. Because people are scared. And then those increased health risks. Right now in Grand Island, there isn't a dentist that takes Medicare patients. Medicaid, sorry. Yeah, there isn't a dentist. They all have to. We all refer them to the dental college here in Hastings. Yeah, it will be. It's the only place in the Tri-City area that we know that will take patients.
Did they used to?
They still do, and that's the only place that we send them to.
Yeah, I thought there was a pediatric office, pediatric dental office in Grand Island. No?
So we're also part of Project Connect, and we can't even get a dentist to come out at Project Connect to provide services for one day. So that's why it's important when we look at some of this stuff. So what can you do? Provide verified and credible resources. Last time I was here, I provided you guys the orange folder. If you need any more, please let us know. We're more than willing to come out and provide that orange folder. Otherwise, you can also reach out to Encourage. They have orange folders here in your community. Contact your Congress. And this is the most important part. We have to change the language in how we talk to our elected representatives. When you think of the word reform, what comes to mind? Change, but there's a negative connotation with it.
There's a reformation.
Yes, that you have to transform something that was bad to something good. So now, when we talk about it, we should talk about a common sense immigration
I don't like that.
policies.
Because I find that a lot of people don't have common sense, they have a lot of bigotry.
But-
They have that as their sense.
But when we look at common sense, is if we need employees, where are we going to get them? And if our economy, especially some industries, are dependent on some of these immigrant workers, where are we going to get them from?
That would be economic sense.
Yes.
Rather than common sense.
And we could coin it together. Economic sense immigration policies. That even sounds better. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about reform does have a bad connotation to it. So now if you change it to an economic sense immigration policy, I think we can all agree that change has to happen. One of the things that I always talk about, I used to do these trips called $50 trips, and I would go to places. And one of the places I ended up was at Roca, Nebraska, at the VFW. I used to volunteer at the one in Norfolk. And they all looked at me, and I just sat in one of the tables and I said, hi. I have no shame. And we started talking, and one of them was curious why I decided to go there. And I started talking to them. I said, well, I have a tremendous respect for our veterans. And one of the biggest things for me is that I wanted to visit places that I could have a conversation with somebody and engage on why we need some of these changes. One of the things that I told him is, if there was ever an immigration common sense or economic policy change, and they said, okay, all DACA recipients, we had some policy around DACA recipients and dreamers, because we had the DREAM Act since 2000 and nothing has ever happened. If they told me tomorrow, Raul, you can get a green card and you're going to be punished, or you're going to have a $10,000 fine, I would get myself into debt just so I could pay that fine. And if they told me that I had to wait an additional 15 years to become a U.S. citizen and I couldn't withdraw any benefits, I would do so. Why? Because that promise is better than the fear that I live in constantly. So when we look at having this economic sense immigration policy and updating our policies that haven't been changed in more than 50 years, we have to consider when we're looking at Social Security and Medicaid. If I ever become a U.S. citizen, they're telling me I won't have any anyway, even though I'm paying. And your grandkids will probably won't see those benefits. But think about, if we have a economic sense immigration policy change, think about all the individuals that would pay into Social Security and Medicaid. It would fix the problem we would have now, and then continue with the possibility that future generations will have the same benefits the current generations are enjoying. Not that I'm saying that it's the greatest, because I know that there's still challenges. We're seeing individuals coming into our office that are only getting $800 a month. And we look at prices and just rent itself, nobody can live off of that. So, and then the second one is being an ally. Just, if you know that somebody's in need, help them out as much as we can. I think we've lost our human compassion for individuals, because if it doesn't impact us, why should we care? And I think that's the biggest one for me. I got into the work of working nonprofits because I care about people. I love to give back. I spent years, again, like I said, cooking for veterans at the VFW up in Norfolk. I donated my time on Friday nights and Saturday nights to cook for them. Because even though they might not have cared for me, I cared a lot for them. Because we need compassion. Compassion is also going to be key besides stress. And before I take any more of your time, if you know anybody who needs any assistance, there is a immigration legal assistance hotline. Again, I always remind people that if you're going to send somebody here, the top number, they're never going to answer you. You have to leave a voicemail, their name, what the case is about, and a number they can call back. So that they can provide them any assistance. A lot of times they'll probably just refer them back to us. And then the other one is if you know anybody who's gotten detained and could potentially need access to an attorney if they qualify, it's that second number on the bottom. Again, we can never guarantee that the services are going to be available. It all depends if they qualify. And we don't know what those qualifications are. Yeah.
Just gonna ask, can you take a picture?
Yes, you can take a picture. It's also inside that packet that we provided last time that we were here. Again, all of this information That immigration packet is on our website. If you go to find Multicultural Coalition, go under resources and know your rights, this packet is inside. And then also the attorney list is also inside.
Who are the local private lawyers who are doing immigration?
So in Grand Island, there's only one that we would recommend, and there isn't another one in the Tri-City area that we would recommend, and it's Hatch and Dallin. Trevor, I can never remember his last name, but he would be the only one that we would recommend. In Grand Island.
And no one,
There isn't one that
do you know?
That we know.
Derek
Who?
Turwell? Do you know Derek Turwell?
I think he practiced criminal law. Does he do immigration as well?
He has.
I have not heard of him. I have heard of him through a criminal case, but not for immigration. I could look into it and talk to him.
What was the name?
Derek?
I was asking if Derek Turwell is still doing any immigration work. I know he used to. He's a sole practitioner. He also has an office.
So right now, the only one in our list, through recommendation from some of our clients and other agencies that do the state work, the only one that's recommended in Grand Island and around the area would be Hatch and Dallin. Hatch and Dallin.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's, yeah.
He's not on the bar list, as I can tell of it. So, how far away do you have to go? Is it Omaha or Lexington?
So their main office is in Omaha, but they have one in Grand Island, right across from Sanchez Plaza.
Nobody in Lincoln?
There's a couple of them in Lincoln, but I can't tell you who they are off the top of my head. We have a whole list of attorneys that are recommended.
Is that in the packet?
Yes, in that packet, yeah.
That Texas situation, refresh my mind here, let me have the correct information. They're going to eliminate work permits.
So I'll back up. The state of Texas had put up a case against DACA to basically terminate DACA. The Ninth Circuit Supreme Court decided with DACA recipients and said that it was legal, but the state of Texas will not recognize the work permit as a legal work permit so people could work.
Is it just for DACA?
Yes. Yep.
So other work permits, they're going to leave those alone?
Yes, but DACA no,
Right now.
for right now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we got it very good.
yeah, so right now, DACA recipients in the state of Texas do not have a legal way to work, even though they have a work permit to allow them to work.
How are things in Iowa, if you're aware? No, how is it working out in Iowa? I've seen a lot more information about the impact in Iowa for immigration enforcement problems. I just wondered if you got any branches.
We are trying to put together a little conference in the next couple of months to do an economic impact of how it's impacting our area. So once that comes out, we will then likely send out the information so if anybody who would like to participate can come out. We would love to get feedback of what you're seeing because I think that is important to bring it into light as we continue doing this work. So.
We also want to invite, for the conference, we want to invite people in poverty, people with leaders within the community so they can see the impact of immigrants and immigration in Nebraska. Just because policies need to change, right? There's some policies that need change and updates. And I believe that we have the right people on the table and the change can be made.
Any other questions? And if I look at the clock, it's already 1. And I don't want to take up any more every lunchtime, because I know I'm hungry.
Sorry, I missed there first.
I just looked it up, so DACA has not ended in Texas yet. They're still in litigation. So that could still, if it gets approved, then they will lose their work permit. But as of right now, they're still able to work.
And if you have any additional questions, you can visit, you can send us, give us a call, you can email us, you can visit our office. We're always, would love to have people come over and show your office and walk you around.
You don't have time.
Yeah, we don't have time, but we make time. Because without your support and without people who support what the work that we do, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for the opportunity for speaking. We always, again, try to stay as neutral as possible and make sure that we provide information that we are seeing in our community and that we're hearing from our community partners. And again, if you have any questions, just let us know. We're here to help.
This isn't a real important question, but do you sell those t-shirts?
Yes.
Hey, look,
She even got hers delivered.
I got mine delivered to my door, Raul brought it to me.
Yes. I was already in Hastings and I said, Junietta is not that far. And then I stopped at the bakery in Junietta and bought some stuff.
So how do we get one?
So you can go to our website, it's in the store, and you'll get the t-shirt. And unfortunately, she was the only one that got it delivered. That was our mistake, so that's why I brought it to her doorstep.
She is pretty special. though.
Yeah.
And if you order one, I will go over to Grand Island and pick it up for you.
Okay. So these t-shirts are available. All the profits from the t-shirt go back to our clients, because then it's unrestricted funding that we can provide if anybody needs assistance with food, rental assistance, healthcare, any of that. We provide that money back to our clients. And that's what we want to do with all the money that that's unrestricted funding, is make sure we give it back to our clients, because again, the needs are a lot more than we're able to provide for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can all turn on orders in.
Yeah.
Thank you both for all the information that you've given us today. I'd like to ask the whole group to remember the MC when they're making their charitable contributions, because they're truly integral parts of our community. You know, whether you're in ag or anywhere you work here in town, you see the difference. Let's see, any announcements for next time? Let's see, our next meeting will be December 12th, noon here, and topic to be determined.